Oil prices in Canada have two prices? Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about and how it affects the Calgary and the rest of the Canadian real estate market with our good friend and broker owner, Darren Langille, right after this. Yes, my friends, here's our favorite Calgary broker owner, Darren Langille, on location, if I might ask. He is tuning in all the way from his little vacation, so we appreciate you doing that, Darren. How's it going?
Oh, it's always great to be here. And, as in real estate, vacation's never really a vacation. I think us as agents have like taken over the internet with all of these, these memes you see. It's like a realtor goes on vacation and then they put them in with a little laptop beside the pool. And it's like, I don't think the consumer has any sympathy for that.
No,
Why should they? Right. So
that's
I don't
right.
know why we do this to ourselves,
Yeah.
but maybe the agents like it.
Yeah.
Most of our viewers tend to come from agents anyways.
That's right. And that's all good. It's all good. And what, well, you know what? We are going to talk about the Calgary market. Don't you worry for those that are tuning in for this. But what I love is the opportunities that, us as realtors, Darren, we're entrepreneurs. Like we're always looking for unique opportunities and being able to, shift and move and things like that. So we appreciate the industry that we in, although sometimes I'm sure we're frustrated with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty fun. Like I'm at my lake house right now. The business has afforded that, after a long career and build something that my family can enjoy. But I'm still here and I love this business and I'm on the computer in the mornings and this business is very global, as you know, right now. And, especially in Canada, there's so much happening between provinces that you and I were working together. Events are being planned with agents in another market because we're bringing people together. Investment, people are smart. People listening to your podcast are listening to like, where is the money going? So yeah, my business partner Brett's putting on a big 300-person investor event in September here in Calgary. I guess not here, but in Calgary. And again, it's centered around a lot of the conversation you and I have been having, right? Which is like, why is Alberta doing well? Is it going to be doing well for a while? Give us some confidence. This isn't some knee-jerk reaction, right? And again, it's a fun business to be a part of because it's very dynamic. So
Yeah. And I think this, I don't want to call it the new wave, but our wave of realtors where we've been in it for 10, and I know you've been in it for many more years with your realtor hat on. Uh, we we are definitely more collaborative than say those that went before us. Would you agree?
yeah, 100%. Yeah, the
Yeah.
walls are being broken down left, right, and center, and it's good for the industry. It's good
Yeah.
for the agent. Agents really are in this solopreneur business, and a lot of people don't know are always kind of on their own, and that sucks because entrepreneurship is difficult. But when you can connect people, your realtor will get better if they're the ones out there connecting with people, like what you and I are doing. You can't help but then be more confident your agent knows what they're doing, is passionate, can lean on proper people because not every one of us has all the answers. So yeah, it's pretty powerful. So
Yeah. No, that's well said. Well said. Okay, my friend. Years and years and years ago, one of our mentors said and said on stage, and I remember Don Campbell, he says, when the price of oil goes up and in Alberta, why does that affect you in your little Toronto market or wherever you happen to be in BC or all over anywhere in Canada? So Darren thought it would be good to kind of for us to just tackle that subject matter a little bit. So enlighten us a little bit on, some of the oil pricing, how that affects not only, Canada's GDP, but also where I'm local here in my little town of Stouffville, Ontario type thing.
yeah, I mean the projections with the continued, attempted, with inflation control and of course trying to tamper the economy, which as we know our feds are trying to do, it puts this long term conversation about will overall GDP slow because they're trying to slow it, which means when GDP slows, we just do less things, right? Meaning driving our cars, going out to the lake, filling our boats up, shipping things,
Yeah.
right? When all that happens, the demand for oil would typically go down and then you'd see pricing adjust. And then you'd say, oh, well, maybe Alberta is going to struggle, right? And but there's so much more involved to that conversation. And I can't even, I'm not even educated enough to share it. But the reality is, it's such a macro thing. We're talking about, what is China doing? What is
Right.
Russia doing? How much is the US producing? How are we doing? That is so much bigger than most of us take on. But in reality, the oil pricing will likely adjust downward a little bit as we finish the year, and maybe even 2024, if this attempted curbing the GDP and bringing inflation to check truly continues to push for another couple of years. But again, we've talked about this. Oil, this is not a new story for Alberta. They've learned how to adjust during these slightly lower oil price situations, and money's being pumped into the economy and profits being had, right? I think there was a TD economist prediction of, like, Alberta is going to lead the GDP somewhere around 2.7%. I mean, that's very healthy. But there's another oil price layer there that you and I, talked about offline, which is, there's kind of like two prices for
Yeah.
oil, right? There's the WTI, and then there's like the Alberta's benchmark, and there's a difference to market. And again, beyond my headspace to really share properly, but what happens is, when oil prices shift, when we trade a lot of our oil at a discount to our US neighbors, that's just the deal that's out there. And when that discount is so high and the gap between real market and that discounted price is big, well, Alberta and all of Canada don't do as well. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. But right now, that difference is actually quite narrow, which just means, okay, while things are adjusting downward globally, we're actually putting a few more bucks into our Alberta-based pocket and into, of course, the overall GDP than normal. So again, that's coming from one of the economic reports out of TD Bank, but it just shows to the strength that we'll be fine. There's a reason these economists predict Alberta to continue leading growth. And again, there's going to be a lot of people listening to this would know a lot more about it than me. But again, from a macro, that's about all I need to know for now to feel reasonably confident that this isn't a swing, right? This is just how we all adjust, and Alberta's going to do just fine.
Right. Right. And I always find that somewhat intriguing. And I remember now understanding, all those little headlines, oil this, oil that, it does have a direct impact on our entire Canadian economy. And I don't want to say how Alberta or how oil goes is how Canada goes, but it does get tied into that quite tremendously. So, talk to us a little bit about, and I know we don't want to sound like a broken record. However, we do these, kind of, bi-weekly updates for a reason. And it's important to keep your kind of thumb to the ground of what's going on locally in your Calgary market. But without sounding like a broken record, how do we sound like a broken record?
Well, speaking of breaking records,
Oh, here we go. Nice
and
segue. Hang on. Yeah.
this could tell a tone to the, maybe again, to the Canadian wide consumer based confidence, or maybe free spending that's happening. But the Calgary Stampede finished, right, not but 2 weeks ago, and they broke many of their records for attendance. Now, why that matters is Canada flies in for this event, right? It's not just Calgarians. A lot of Calgarians say, I'm done with this and let me go hang out somewhere else because it's so busy. But the airports were full. The ticket sales were flying. Like, the concerts were full, and this is millions of people that came, and that shows, again, a lot of strength to just people wanting to just, again, be in our country, spend money, enjoy themselves. And when things were worse, we saw attendance in the Stampede just
Is that
really
right?
go lower, and it was concerning. So it was nice to see. I didn't take part this time, but a lot of people did. But that being said, that's always the week in real estate that we're like, what is happening? Because it could be a giant pause, and maybe that would have us slow back down in July. But again, looking at the data on this kind of biweekly basis with you, we're up over last year. We're up
Right.
on all fronts, meaning more sales this July than last July again. And this would bring us to a whole quarter of sales volume that is outpacing last year's crazy. So it doesn't seem to be going away. Darren's broken record saying sales are continuing, pent up demand, renters turning into owners despite high interest rates. is continuing to feed, right? And we're not seeing any bump in active inventory either, right?
Right.
You and I talked about this. This is the backside of the year now, right? Which means less new listings per day than we would have had in the first half of the year.
Yeah.
And we're already in a position of quite low inventory, just like that broken record you and I have been sharing.
Yeah. And what do you say to those that perhaps think, Calgary goes as the roller coaster goes, kind of up and down and everything like that. But over the last couple of years, we have seen some of that stabilize somewhat. And what do you, I don't know if I have more of a question, but maybe a comment, but maybe if I could circle back to an actual question,
Sure.
what do you say to that perhaps outsider looking in? Hey, what does happen in that Calgary market? Are we seeing some opportunities? Are we still seeing an opportunity, say, from someone in Vancouver or Toronto where our prices are so inflated that, nope, there's still opportunity here in Calgary, even though we've hit some of those record-breaking numbers?
Well, I had a call this week from a luxury acreage that I listed on online, made a YouTube video as you should be doing. And lo and behold, the most interested party right now is somebody out of Toronto.
Right.
And they're planning to uproot their whole family because the kids have already come to Alberta. One has a job up in Edmonton, the other one's planning here in Calgary. Why? Because they could not afford living. Right?
Yeah.
There's no way they can start their lives and do anything meaningful right now with the price points. So as a family, they're pulling across the country. They're bringing their mother as well, who is again at the point of like almost elderly care.
Mm.
And what will happen is this home will act as that legacy for the mother to stay with, not spend the $5,000 a month at a care home, be with them. The jobs are much more remote now, so he can travel and do his job. And then the kids are now either a short drive away, and they're right by an international airport, but again, at a price point that they can all do this together.
Right.
And so it's that story, dude, is all the time, all over, that just is making sense. So again, that feels like a deal to these people. That
Yeah.
price is high to what the Calgarian feels because we're not used to this, and we don't have this built-in kind of massive bump of equity that happened in every other market where we didn't. So that story just is playing out, and I could probably bring on every one of my 75 agents, and they would all have a story very similar to that.
Is that right? Yeah, yeah, and it makes sense from even myself as I sit here and listen to, the different opportunities that come up, and I'm working with some first-time home buyers right now in this current market, which tells us a couple of things. Doesn't matter, and this is what I want people to hear. And I know, Darren, you teach this incredibly well to your agents. It doesn't matter what type of market we're in, whether it's moving fast, up, down, sideways. There are still people that will always buy and sell.
Oh yeah,
and sure enough, some clients right now are, I don't want to say they're forced, but the opportunity has come up where ideally it makes sense for them to purchase right now. And we're looking at all sorts of different opportunities. So I'm sure it's the same for you guys, whether you have first-time home buyers, and locally, if you're local from Calgary, you're thinking, how am I going to buy in this market? It happens, right?
I mean, I coach a lot of agents locally too, and I'm trying to coach them over the edge to say, we have to start believing in our long-term power of our market here. Because for half a decade to almost a decade, a lot of us were pessimistic because we didn't see a lot of that upside that you guys felt. And it's so funny when it's an agent's not supposed to make the decision for their client. They're supposed to consult and advise. But if your agents have doubt about the upside because it's just never been realized for a consistent amount, you end up almost talking them out of deals that they should have had. And then $60,000 later, they're behind still looking because they're staying in the buyer pool and they haven't yet bit the bullet to just pay extra 10. What's 10 when you could have had 60 now, right? It's easy to say in hindsight, but this whole agent body in Calgary has having to educate consumers here about the real strength and convincing over people. It's hard. You guys see it, making sense. And a lot of us rooted here are having a hard time just fully adopting this, even though we're proud Albertans,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And you probably brought up a great point. Maybe you and I can dive on this on a completely other subject, but as a realtor, And if you're a buyer or a seller out there using a realtor's role is to consult. And you mentioned a really good point. Sometimes that consulting turns into, or needs to turn into, here's not only a suggestion but a strong suggestion, right? There's that fine line that many people have to walk, and there's some great, I can't think of a better word, coaching that leaders like yourself will do for their agents, and that is a fine line to walk, and it's a craft to learn how to consult, as well as sometimes people just need a little push, need a little encouragement to show them what the opportunities are.
Can you hear me? Am I there?
There we go. Okay, we cut right back. Darren's sort of with us. Darren, remind us how people get a hold of you.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi here is not great. I warned Gary. But yeah, hit us on the YouTube channel. Gary and I are watching it. You can hit me up on Instagram at Darren Langille, or just, again, Darren at redlinerealestate.ca. Happy to help you any way I can.
There you have it, my friend. So all the way from the Lake House, that's Darren Langille. If you need anything in the Calgary area, reach out to him and his team. He's happy to help. Of course, I'm Gary McGowan. We'll see everybody in the next video. Goodbye for now.